Good afternoon. Laura Donnelly here from Dancing with Ease, Body Brain Balance. And I have another installment conversation on the healing path with my friend Christine Zona. We met online in a conversation group. I think we started our connection in LinkedIn, actually, talking about teaching dance and terminology and ways to teach certain steps. There was at one time an awesome group that I really loved. This has shifted a little bit, but some of the friendships I made there, I still have. And so Christine agreed to speak on the healing path today. And what is the healing path? These are just our conversations that I have periodically with friends and colleagues who are working in some area of healing in the world. Can be traditional healing, it can be non-traditional healing, and it's all modalities are happily discussed and shared here. And the main thing that is consistent throughout is the idea that all healing, whether you use traditional Western medicine or alternative medicines or no medicines and just natural things, foods and massage or whatever, that the intention to heal starts from inside, and healing begins inside of us and it expands outward. And as we heal ourselves, we gently change how we move through the world, and this brings a healing energy to all the people we interact with. So I'll bring Christine into the broadcast studio and let her share a little bit about her history and her journey. And then we're going to talk about this fantastic subject, and I already forgot how to say the word. Hey, Christine.
Hey, Laura, thank you so much for having me here. I really am appreciative, and I love what you're doing with this healing path and it just giving people the opportunity to learn these different things about how to feel better about everything that they're doing. So thank you. I really appreciate being here. I'm enjoying it.
I'm glad. I'm so glad you could come too, enjoy and share what you do and how you work and how you support people.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So the way you say it is hormesis, I think. But what I do is I was a health major in college, and I know this is in my bio. Just I'm going to say a little bit about it. And I've always been interested in health. I changed my major like a million times. I'll be honest with you, but it was health related to everything. And so then when I got out of college, though, I started teaching ballroom dance, and that kind of was my background too, because actually my father was a musician. And when I was a really little girl, like I remember being 3 and 4 years old and going to like the nightclubs. This is when they had the bands and they had like the floor shows and they would play music. And I remember being there with him. And I think it went into me, and so that's what I wanted to do. So I've had this wonderful career teaching ballroom dancing. I competed professionally. I'm judged now too when there's things open. And I teach college kids. That's my favorite thing to do is to teach the college kids. I love that. But then as this whole thing happened with the pandemic, I got more and more involved in my side business, which I've been involved with for a while. And that is teaching people that want to be healthier how to use the nutrition system. And it includes things like intermittent fasting and protein pacing, which have become buzzwords the last few years. But when I started, it was like they were doing this and no one was talking about it. And that led me to this topic of hormesis. And that's why I thought it would be something interesting to talk about today.
That's great. There's so much that you just said. And well, no, like my mom taught dancing in our house. And so like I grew up with ballet in my house and the music and everything. And my dad was a singer and they did musical theater. And so there is something, I think, that just comes into you. This is the way people are, and this is the way our people are. So it sets you on a path. But I also know about dancing is that you need to be strong and healthy and fit. In order to teach dance, you need to be strong and healthy and fit. And actually, to be a viable human, it's very helpful.
Yes, that's very true.
and to take care of yourself. Everybody isn't the same. Everybody's body doesn't respond the same to stimuli or situations. But I think we all have optimum health that we can encourage and support. So explain the hormesis and what that is.
Okay. Yes. So the hormesis, it's, I guess, from what I understand, like this new, like it's the hottest topic now in healthy aging. All right. And what it is, I found this because I was looking at some things with intermittent fasting for my business. And that's where I found all of this information. But this is what they say it is. There are short intermittent bursts of certain stressors that can trigger cellular processes that enhance your overall health. It can slow aging, make you more resilient to future stressors, and that could be physical or mental. So I thought that was like really an interesting thing to talk about, because what we hear now about stress is that it's not good for you. But chronic stress is not good for you, where you're not sleeping and you're overworked and, you're worried all the time. That kind of stress is never going to be good for you. But these are short bursts of stress. And I have a couple of exercises that I can tell you about too. But do you have another question before I do that? Or
Well, I was just going to say, actually, I think that our system is wired for short bursts of stress.
Mhm.
Like historically as a mammal, and we are geared to have that flash of adrenaline and do something quickly in response to it, and then let the system calm down. And what you said was, which I agree with, is that ongoing, continual, either low, middle, or high level stress is really damaging to the human system. And I think it would be fun to talk about a couple of the exercises, and also this idea. I wonder if you can reset your body's stress response, so that that if you give it a little burst of stress, I mean, and that's sort of like what you do in dance training. You do like a certain number of repetitions of stuff to
Mhm.
build muscles. Probably in strength training too. I did never do that, so.
I don't either, but yeah, I'm sure it's true.
And,
Yeah.
and you go just a little past what's comfortable, so that in dance you break the tissue a little bit, and then in the mending, as it mends and restores itself, it gets actually stronger. And so then I'm wondering if it's possible through these kind of little exercises to remind the body that it is supposed to have some stress and calm down. and not just keep its finger on that stress button, like when people are angry and nobody answers the doorbell, and they ding the doorbell 150 times. Well, excuse me, if they're not home or they're not answering,
Right.
keep eating is not going to happen. Or
And
help.
they do that with the elevators too, right? It's like, well, it's not going to make it come any faster, right? Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's very true. And because stress has become a bad word in a way, hasn't it? People want comfort. And I think, everything is about comfort now, right? You got to be comfortable. And that is not good for us either, to constantly be in comfort. Like, I mean, we're dancers. I mean, I'm a competitive dancer. And like some of this stuff they do, even with the competitions now, not necessarily just in dance, it's like everybody gets a trophy. Well, that's too comfortable for people. They don't ever want to break out of that and be something that they can be, because I believe we all have the ability to be something very special. But if we're constantly trying to be comfortable, that stops us from reaching where we need to go, whether it's in business or in some kind of athletic pursuit, or just in life with your relationships or whatever.
Yeah, totally. In every area, the growth happens from discomfort now, and we aren't talking about tearing something apart so that it has to come back together, but just where is the edge,
Mhm.
and what else is possible.
Yes.
And I think that that's a really well, I have another friend, her name is Christine, and she talks about surfing your edge. And
Uh-huh.
she's kind of talking about this. Where is the edge? And how can you kind of like be on that edge and keep yourself growing without falling over the edge and without being scared of it, without being afraid of approaching the limit of what you know or the limit of what you know you can do. And that's really learning is when you do something you didn't know you could do.
Yeah, that's interesting. We were just talking about this, one of my students yesterday, one of my ballroom students, and they've been comfortable so long just doing what they're doing. So I tried to push them out of that comfort zone. And it's like so interesting because what they do then, they start to do it, and then all of a sudden it's getting better. And you can see them getting better. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, no, no. I got to go back to where I was. And it's just very interesting. And Bob Proctor talks about that too. Do you know Bob Proctor? He talks about that too. You hit that limit, and then you can't go anymore, and you go back to where you were. And it's just like an interesting concept to find ways to keep progressing, even when you get a little bit, I guess, afraid of what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what builds that curiosity.
Yeah.
If it's the desire for something different that causes some people to always strive, a good mentor, good teacher, I think that's really important. I'm sure this was helpful for your student to even, it's pretty brave to even bring it up, you know?
Yeah, and I think whether they really believe it or not, at least it was a seed planted that it's like, oh, well, maybe next year they'll realize what it is. Maybe it won't happen now, but next year it will. And I think that happens a lot of time too with when we're learning, we don't realize these little seeds are being planted in us. And if that time isn't the right time, maybe it is later. Maybe it'll never be. We don't know sometimes, right?
That's so true. And I had a teacher tell me that at one point. She said, it's time for you to go and find a new dance teacher. So she said, this does not mean that you have learned everything I had to teach you, but it means that for right now, you have absorbed everything from me that you are able to absorb. And you need to explore, and you need to hear other people say some of the stuff I was saying in a different way. So you can learn in a different way. And I think for me, it was sad because I really loved this teacher a whole lot. And at the same time, I'm like, oh, there's some kind of trajectory in my own learning. And if I can figure this out, I'll learn faster. And later I came back and worked with her again. And it was different and joyful. And at the time I left, I was starting to feel frustrated and confined, and she was starting to feel frustrated because things she wanted me to do that she knew I could do, I wasn't hearing. And I thought it was very wise, as a teacher to say, I'll be here, go do some other stuff, come back, we'll keep, we'll change the parameters of this
Right.
learning.
That is wise, and it's brave too to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. She was probably pushing some buttons of her own.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But so what about some of these
Okay.
exercises you said you had? Because I think
All right.
I'm in the mood to push some boundaries here.
All right. Let's see what we have here. All right. So first of all, they talked about workouts. When you're working out physically, that you need to do bursts of all out activity for 30 seconds. So if you are doing some kind of maybe a quick run, and Tony Robbins does this thing where you stand, I don't know if you know Tony, if you've been any of his trainings, and you stand like in a running position, and you get your hands going and you go like this, and you do it like for 30 seconds. And that's what he says to do. And so it's so interesting because I was in a training with him, and then I heard this. So that's what you do, because that gets your physically going, and then you rest for 10 seconds. And then you can do another burst of some kind of 15 seconds of rest. Sorry. Then you can do some other kind, and maybe that is running. Maybe that's doing some kind of, I don't lift weights. I don't know, but I don't know, some kind of, it would have to be something fast though, to get you going.
Get your
So
heart rate going a little bit.
get everything going. And it should be all out. Like you put everything you can into it, and then you rest for 15 seconds, and you do it again. So that would be the physical component of doing this. Another thing is box breathing. So you want to breathe in a way because, breathing is so important when we're stressed anyway, right? Everyone talks about that. But what they say to do is we'll do it together too, but we'll inhale for 4 in your nose, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold that for 4 seconds. So let's try it together. So we're going to inhale. So you do that a few times. So it's inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. And that helps your body too, because what they say is the more you can hold your breath, the better it makes your lung capacity, which I had never heard before, but I'm not like a swimmer or anything. But I thought that was kind of interesting. And I don't know, some people say you exhale through your mouth. Some say it's through your nose. I just think it's what works for you. I don't know. So that was the box breathing. Next one, where's my eye? I got my things out. Okay, 3. Get out of your temperature comfort zone, right? Because you hear all this now about these cold showers, don't you? Which I've never done. I haven't gotten myself to do that yet, but I have friends that are doing it. And it's like what you want to do, because again, we always want to be comfortable. So we were in a nice warm shower, nice warm blankets. We have the air conditioner on if it's too hot. We always want to be comfortable, which is what goes back to what we talked about earlier. So what they're saying is, you have to get physically uncomfortable too. That's what the ice baths, the cold showers, going outside in the cold. Like sometimes, I live in New York and, I want to get some walking in and it's like, oh, it's just so cold. I don't want to go out. But, so sometimes I make myself, but you need that uncomfortableness, that wind that's like, oh, and also the heat. Hot yoga is big now too, right? Doing any kind of exercise in the heat so that you are uncomfortable again. Not maybe having your air conditioner on, be hot once in a while, So just always getting out of that comfortable heat, cold place that we always want to be, right? And can you remember, I know I'm showing my age. When I was a kid, we didn't have air conditioners. In England, they don't have air conditioners. The dance studios do not have air conditioners. So, but we're so used to, like my younger brother has to have an air conditioner on. You know what I mean? But it's kind of the comfort thing again. So we need to get out of that too. Now, the next one they said is eat a variety of colorful vegetables. And they say the most colorful, the better, the brightest, the most colorful. And I don't know how you can tell this, but this is what they said to do. They say the plants that have experienced the most stress as they're growing are going to have the most beneficial compounds for you. So I don't know if that means I don't know, they have a hard time growing because they're in a bad climate. I don't really know how they figure that out, but I thought that was interesting.
Here's what I think. It's like they let them get dry and then they water them instead of keeping them like rice. Rice grows in a rice paddy and it's always got moisture on it. That's a different kind of plant, but like a green leafy thing. Also, this is really interesting that you said this. My husband likes to grow kale and chard and all of those kind of dark green things late in the season because he says if you can let them get some cold on them, which is a stressor, that it brings the flavor up.
Oh.
And he said that, and now that you're talking about this, I'm thinking, okay, well, this stresses them just a little bit. You don't want them to freeze because then they wilt and rot. But then they have to, when the sun comes out, they have to do more work. It's just like we've been talking about. A little stress and recover makes you stronger. So why wouldn't it work for plants? And my pear tree does this periodically. It blooms too early and all of the blossoms get zapped with a late frost.
Mm-hmm.
But the next year, it produces twice as much fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that stress of the frost actually gives the plant time to grow and improve. And then it has a more abundant harvest the next year, which is supposed to be this year. So I'm getting my fingers crossed.
Well, that's interesting. I thank you for explaining all that because I don't grow things. I'm not a garden person, but that's an interesting way to look at it. Thank you. Thank you.
It's very cool. But at the
Yeah.
grocery store, unless we grew the food ourselves, how do we know if it was stressed? I'm going to tell that to my husband too, because sometimes he's like, "You didn't pick the stuff today," and I'm like, I'm stressing it so it has more food value."
That's,
Now I
yeah.
need an excuse.
Now you have a real reason, right?
Yeah.
So the other one is to mentally challenge yourself. And that's a hard one too, because you don't want to put yourself into this state of like stress. So you have to know exactly how much, but you have to have some mental stressors for your mental health to grow too. So I think that's a little bit harder one to figure out. But you kind of know sometimes we're like you're excited about learning maybe, and then all of a sudden it gets a little bit hard, but you push through that little bit of hardness, right? But if you feel like you have to stay up all night to study, like maybe kids for a test, maybe that's too much stress, you know? So I think you have to find out for yourself though, right? You have to figure out how much stress you can take, but don't be afraid to have some stress, mental stress in your life, you know, something that you don't understand. And, you know, I've listened to people top business people, and what they do is every day they go on YouTube or something like that and learn something new, because I think that's where this comes from. They want to stress themselves a little bit and learn something that, I mean, we all do the same things over and over again every day, don't we? But
We do.
learning something new can stress your brain just enough, right? Yeah.
I'm thinking too now of the relationship between stress and stretch.
Hmm.
You want to stretch your mind.
Hmm.
And then I'm thinking about like there's a rubber band that you use. It's an eraser that you use in art for erasing charcoal. And if you stretch it and stretch it and stretch it and stretch it, it gets really soft and then it erases better.
Hmm.
And it's
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting, Christine. I like this. This is so fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad. And the next thing they talk about is the intermittent fasting. And that's what kind of I've done with my company, with these products, you know, since about what, 14 years now. And, you know, because I said earlier, that's the new buzzword, right? Intermittent fasting. And what is intermittent fasting? Right now, people are saying you should not eat for maybe 16 hours, like have 8 hours of eating, 16 hours off. That would be an easy way. You can do it for 24 hours. You can do it for 48 hours. That is intermittent fasting. And why should you intermittent fast? It's because you're trying to give your digestive system a rest. So if your digestive system is always working, then your body doesn't get a chance to do what it needs to do to clean and cleanse itself of the impurities, because the digestive system takes a lot of energy. So that's why they're thinking this is so good for you. And what the benefits are, you know, you lose weight, you just have more energy, you just feel better when you do this intermittent fasting. So that's why I got involved with it. Just a little bit of a background with that too. So when I retired from professional competing, I gained weight, of course. I wasn't dancing much anymore, right? I was feeling tired, but I was still traveling all the time. And I was all just tired and I'm not a coffee drinker, but I was drinking these energy drinks. And this was way before 5 Hour Energy. It was, you know, that wasn't even a thing then, but it was this other company that had this energy drink. And I was drinking like 3 a day. And I'm like, this is way too much. I should not be drinking all this, right? So a friend of mine who was another dancer got me involved with this. And she, you know, and it really did. Within a few days, I didn't need it anymore, because when your body works better with good nutrition, it cleanses itself, but it needs some help. And when it cleanses itself, you have more energy. But it needs help because right now there's so many impurities. Do you realize there's impurities in the air, in the water, in the food we eat? Everywhere there's impurities. I mean, they find in like the places that are supposed to be the purest, like lakes, all kinds of stuff like jet fuel and antidepressants and all that kind of stuff, right? So there are stuff and we can't get away from it. So that's why cleansing the body is a good idea to do so that the nutrients that you do eat get absorbed and then you feel better. You're going to have more energy. And there's I love this lady. I think she passed away, but her name was Dr. Doris Rapp. And she has a website, you can look at it. She was a physician in 4 modalities. And what she said was, in this day and age, you have to supplement and you have to cleanse because the cleansing, because of the impurities, and the supplementation, because there are because of since World War One, they started um, pesticides and herbicides. I guess that's when it started. And so what it does is it kills the stuff, right, that we don't want, but it also kills the things we do want. And it could be in like the earthworms. Like if you don't live in the country, you don't see earthworms anywhere. And when I was a kid, there were earthworms everywhere, right? It would rain and they would be all over the sidewalks. It was, right? I don't know, but there aren't as many anymore. And because there's not as many earthworms, the soil is not getting as many minerals as it used to get. So there's been a lot of studies about that too. And so I just had one thing I wanted to say about them, about that, because I think that's important because people think they eat organic, they're getting everything they need. Well, not necessarily. It's better to eat organic, of course, and if you have your own garden, oh, that's wonderful, right? And probably you do fertilize in the right way to get good nutrition, right? But the majority of people that are just buying their food at a grocery store, even if it's Whole Foods, don't realize that sometimes there's not what they think there is in those things. So what I found out in an orange if you ate an orange in 1980, one orange, today you need 8 of them
Oh, to get the same food value.
to get yes, because of the soil depletion that they have right now. And the Journal of American College of Nutrition did a study from 1950 to 1999 on 43 different fruits and vegetables. And there was a significant, I didn't write this all down because it was all too, kind of boring, but there was a significant decline in protein, um, phosphorus, calcium, vitamins B12, and vitamin C in what they studied. I didn't write them all down, but I think that's kind of significant. And I know some people say that's not true. I mean, you hear all these different things, right? But, how could it not be true in a way with, the massive farming and the things that are happening because they're trying to get more and more out of every crop. So how could it not be true? I just logically that makes sense to me. But so that's why
I was going to say the other thing I think is different is the shipping of things
yeah.
all over the world. I mean, every once in a while, even if you go for a package of organic ground beef, it sometimes will say on the bottom of the package, beef from Canada, New Zealand, the US, and Australia. And I'm like, okay, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I need to have beef from New Zealand in my hamburger patty? And how long was it frozen? How was it transported?
Right.
I think the same is true with a lot of fruits and vegetables is that they pick them somewhat green so that they survive the shipping. And if that's one of the things that I love about being able to have a garden is that I can wait till the stuff is absolutely ripe on the vine, on the plant, on the whatever, and it has gotten its full food value.
Right.
But also like watermelon, I remember I think it was probably in the late 80s. Yeah, late 80s. Suddenly on all the salad bars, you could get watermelon in the middle of the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't taste like anything.
Mm-hmm.
I went to my nutritionist. I said, look, I got this watermelon. It doesn't taste like anything. She said, well, what did you expect? This is not watermelon season.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we start talking about seasonal fruits and vegetables, which almost nobody thinks about what is the seasonal food.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the seasonal thing was that you had to wait till it got ripe because you couldn't ship it very far. So I am a kind of a, I believe it. I believe that also preservation, like grains, how they started
Hmm.
that in the 60s, making cereal. I
Hmm.
mean, like your box of cornflakes can, if you don't open it, it can sit on your shelf for 5 years. Okay, how much food value can be in that box of cornflakes if it's 5 years old?
Right.
That's scary. Oh, that's scary. So yeah.
So that's why I think, when I started with this program, that it changed me so completely, and I had energy, and I just felt better, and I lost weight because I was putting the good nutrition in that I wasn't getting before. But most importantly, I think I had cleansed some of the impurities out so the nutrition can get in,
So there's
you know.
space in the cells, space in the digestive
Right.
system, and everything.
Yeah, because it's kind of like if you're going to clean your car or well, I don't clean my car very often, but that probably wasn't a good example. But you know what I mean? If you want something to be clean, you just clean it once either. You have to continue to clean it, right? You have to, and I think people just think that's not true. Well, the world has changed in the last 50 years. There are more impurities everywhere. There has to be, right? I mean, with the plastics and the air fuel and all that kind of stuff, right?
Well, and there's more fast food. I mean, I remember where I lived that okay, dating self, too old, but I was probably 11 or 12, maybe 13, before there was a McDonald's in the state, and the McDonald's was in a town 60 miles from us.
Hmm.
And now almost everywhere there's almost a McDonald's in every town, and almost in some places too, one on the east side and the west side.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, this is interesting. No stress. I had a friend long ago, went to Europe, bought a train pass, and when she came home, she said the first place we went every time we got off the train, right across from the train station, was a McDonald's.
Huh.
And I'm like, really? Well, she said, well, we were vegetarian and they had a fish sandwich. And I was just going, you know, you're in
Exactly.
Europe, you're with someplace where they really have good food, really good food. Most every country, and it's its own food. And what she didn't say, but what I think is also true, is familiarity, comfort. You go into McDonald's in any country in the world, and you can get this thing just like you got it at home.
Hmm.
Now, see, now here's how I am. That stresses me out.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I wonder when like the fast foods opened when it really got popular in the 60s and 70s. I wonder if they were actually a little bit more healthy than they are today with how they created their hamburgers and stuff, because now, like you've seen pictures of the meal, what, for like 10 years or something, and it looks the same. But I wonder if it was different then, because back then there wasn't, I don't think, as widespread use of preservatives and stuff. I don't know, maybe there were and I didn't know it, but.
No, the other thing that has happened is I forgot what. Oh darn! I don't remember which chain it is, but in somewhere in Chicago there is one central kitchen that chops all the lettuce. All might be. Okay, don't hold me to this, anybody. It might be Subway, but it might be another sub sandwich place. They do all the chopping in one place, bundle it, and ship it to every little store in the entire city. They
Uh-huh.
aren't even chopping those vegetables in the store. So like when I used to wait tables, you had side work, which was cutting the lemons and whatever else had to go out as condiments you had to put together. So there wasn't this mass packaging. And I think early, like you said, early on, like the McDonald's in my area, probably locally sourced a
Hmm.
lot of stuff, the lettuce, the tomatoes, the beef, might even locally source the beef.
Hmm.
And And now I think that it's prepackaged and shipped all over the country.
Yeah.
Um, Again, we would have to investigate more to be actually scientific.
Hmm.
But well, I have an interesting question because a lot of the people who come on and listen to this are probably, well, I will give it a safe over 50.
Hmm.
But I do think that your nutritional and dietary uh, needs shift then, and that you might need more protein. You might. I myself actually have been doing some intermittent fasting, and it has actually like my body kind of feels like it came back to itself, and it's more. I want to say like more. Is functioning better. Its parts are functioning better, and like I used to, if I don't pay attention, I have something I call sugar sneak, and I also have carb creep. Yeah. So that I have one carb somewhere, and then I want the next day 2 or 3 carbs, and then suddenly I have cut down on my protein, and I'm eating more carbs, and with the carbs comes sugar, and and if I don't beat myself up and say, oh, you did it again, you fell into the your traditional slump. And I just say, wait, let's come back. What's healthy? Because I really love salad and I love green vegetables. And I mean, I love all the good stuff too. But something just happens and I creep into these things that aren't that good for me. And if I just take the time to be good to myself and eat the really good stuff, and then I stop wanting that other stuff. Like you stop wanting those energy drinks because a lot of and see that's what I would use is sugar instead of an energy drink, but it gives you a quick rush, but then you're more depleted afterwards. And then you need another one. And then you're more depleted. And then you need another one. So so do you have do you notice in yourself changes in what you like to eat, what makes you feel happy, healthy, and strong compared to, say, when you were younger? I mean, like I had my performance peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwich, which I almost can't eat as a non-performing human because I burned so many calories and I would eat it, at home before I went on the subway to the theater, and it would fuel me until after the show. But if I eat that now, it's an invitation to a few extra pounds.
Yeah, I do think, yeah, we all are going to change, right? And like they say, it's because of hormones. They say, could be other things. It could be stress. But yeah, I think when, and I'm not perfect. I love pizza. Um, I,
Me too.
I go to this, my brother has a classical music festival. And every year before the pandemic, we would go to our hometown, which is this little town in Pennsylvania that has the best pizza. And it's like every restaurant has their own version of the best pizza in the city. You know what I mean? So I'm like, so I eat pizza all the time. And I love crunchy chips. I'm not saying I'm perfect at all, but what I do know is and I know when I put this shake back in my body, which I have every day, I know I'm getting good nutrition. And if I have something bad, it kind of not counteracts it, but I feel good about my choice anyway. It's like I don't, sometimes I beat myself up. I try not to, but for the most part, it's like, oh, it's all right. You had your fun. You wanted that pizza. That's great. But you still put the nutrition stuff in your body. And I love greens too and salad. I'm a vegetarian actually. So, I love stuff like that. And when I teach now all day, you're right. What you said about the energy from the banana, whatever. I can't eat when I'm teaching. I can't eat anything big because it makes me feel not like I want it. I just don't feel good teaching anymore. So I do, and I use, everyone can find their own thing, but I use these products. I have a shake, I have a bar, I have those things while I'm teaching. And when I'm done teaching, I have a meal because I just find if I have food, I just whether it's good food or I don't know, not food. It's just it's too heavy. And so, and that's as I've gotten older, that's what I feel. So I think we do change with our age and stuff. Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like you have found a way to keep your system in balance
Mhm.
and to restore the natural things when it gets kind of run down. I think part of the thing about teaching is that we don't, in a busy teaching schedule, you don't have enough time to eat. Well, actually, you have enough time to eat. You don't have enough time to digest. And then when you start working and performing on that undigested thing, that's actually imbalancing your body's
Mhm.
ability to absorb that food that it actually needed to fuel you. So we have in the description contact information for Christine. So if you want to get in touch with her, ask her some questions, you can put them in the comments under the video, and she'll get back to you. I'll get back. I'll make sure she sees them, and she has her email, Instagram, so you can follow her work and learn more information about uh, gentle, healthy stressing and recovery, and good nutrition, and taking care of yourself, as well as, I don't know, you seem pretty, also the curiosity, right? The curiosity of growing and stretching your mind, keeping your body building so that you don't settle. And at no age do you decide you have to settle.
Yes.
I think that that's really important um, for keeping our whole system was designed to overcome challenges and stress.
Mhm.
And so if we keep, I mean, we don't always have to do the same ones, right? I'm not climbing Mount Everest now.
Right.
That one's off my list. What am I probably not doing either? I really wanted to do, those suits that you wear that are kind of like a parachute fabric, and you can jump off a cliff and parasail down.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm probably not doing that this lifetime. That's probably a little too much stress. The flying would be great. It's the landing that I might not be so good
Hmm.
at these days. But thank you so much, Christine, for
Uh,
coming and sharing and
and
breathing.
I just wanted to say, yeah, everybody has their own things though. Like what I do might not be good for you or for the next person. I just was saying the things that I do and but these stressor things I think are a good thing for everybody to think about. What they could do to stress their body and their mind a little bit so that they can grow. And thank you so much, Laura, for having me here. I enjoyed talking to everybody, and uh, we'll hope to see you soon. If anybody has any questions, yes, please just let me know.
Great. And I'll see you in a week or two when somebody else wants to come talk. Take care and let us
Bye.
know how you're doing on your healing path.
Bye.
Bye bye.